think I did. So we're just going to go with that weird opening and say welcome to the Second Amendment Topics Advanced, or wait, what am I calling this? The 2A Advanced Topics show, or conversation, or chat. Let's see. Well, it might be a short one. Thanks, G23, for jumping in.
Thanks for the invite.
I guess I'm doing the show too late, or nobody wants to talk about 2A. So nobody's showing up to be live because this is a live show, but nobody's except for G23 showed up in the internal chat either. So did you bring any conversations or topics? Did you have anything you want to chat about?
I wasn't exactly sure what you had on your mind.
I don't really have topics for this one, other than I don't really like following around the news of the day. Let's see what I had in there. I think I did type something. Oh, you know what? I saw that. Well, I think, were you in there listening to Santee TV earlier?
I was not. I didn't have power.
Okay. Well, I never know because I can't remember who all I see everywhere. But Santee TV had a live chat earlier, an interview with, I don't know the guy's name. It's like something like Australian Shooting Channel or something like that. And it's a guy from Australia, and he was chatting about the laws there. The Shooting Stuff Australia. That's what the name of the channel is. So it was a pretty interesting article, a pretty interesting interview. And I figured that would be a topic just to compare international laws to ours, or something we've had plenty of conversations about or in relation to Australia before. But anyway, that's about the only thing I had on the agenda for a topic. Let's see, I threw out a poll earlier. Least important issue for 2021 in the Second Amendment realm, and put the topics out there of repealing the NFA, national reciprocity, which is getting concealed carry in all the different states to acknowledge each other, basically. And then unity among the 2A community, and then cultural education about guns in 2A. So we only got one vote. Whoever voted says that cultural education is the least important thing. That's interesting. So I'll leave the poll going, and we'll see if anybody shows up tonight. It's kind of, without having topics, I don't want to throw it all on G23 here. Did you have any 2A topics in your chat earlier today?
Not really. We had more of a roasting Rob all night.
Okay. So if I go back and look at stuff I've been looking at, Great Stuff Shooting School had their suicide prevention Saturday live feed, except they did it during the Locked and Loaded show, so I had to watch that after the fact. It's interesting, there's this other live chat going on that's got tons of super chats and stuff happening. I've never even heard of that channel before. So if I go back into my channel and go back into this show, let's see what kind of topics we had in there. So the Clover stuff, bringing the gun tubers in to the mix is interesting. He's creating a channel so that he can give people insight to doing content creation for Second Amendment. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been involved in this stuff, and here's where we're sitting with 0 people watching in chat that's about 2A, and content creating is well, it's not magic. You can only create stuff. You can't what's the word? Like force people to give a shit about what you're doing or whatever. So there's definitely ways you can do stuff to do stuff better or what, but dead end's a dead end. Let's see, Amazon, it's a specific video over there. We got a bunch of chats from the Solutionary Summit. Let's see, what would I sum up Sunny's? I don't know if you've seen any of these or not. I would say Tangerine seemed like a lot of the new shooters and females that are new to the mix. So, like anybody who's new, you got to give them a chance to get their bearings. Once she's at her bearings and been around for a bit, assuming she sticks around, definitely be interesting to see her evolution and how she digs in. You know, if she's going to be a competitive shooter, for example, if she's going to become an instructor, if she's going to, just be someone that carries and offers insight on that. She's got some interest in like the girly side of what would you call like fashion and guns. So tons of opportunity over there. So it'd be interesting to see where she goes. Aquil is a Green Beret or was a Green Beret and is doing some classes that or take like a weekend or a couple of days and bring people out into nature, basically into the environment to give them the skills and the like the experience of surviving outdoors. Which I don't know. Have you ever had a chance to go outside and survive outdoors for some kind of a class or some sort of hopefully not for real, but like for some sort of testing? See if you can do it.
So, like growing up where you have hills and mountains and stuff, most of the time, kids and as you're growing up, yeah, you're out in the hills all the time. Out playing out there for the weekend. Trying to see if you can make it without having to go home. And there's times where you go out there. It starts off as, oh, we're just gonna go shoot in the hills, shoot some cans or whatever, and next thing you know, it's like it's 10, 11 o'clock at night. I want to drive all the way back home, so we're just gonna stay the night. And you were completely unprepared. You didn't bring blankets, you didn't bring a tent, and so now you got to figure out how you're gonna do all that.
Right on. Yeah, there's just certain like I don't know what to call it, like confidence or what's the word that you can be satisfied that you can confident, I guess, be know that you can deal with stuff and makes things less scary, so you're less worried about them and you can move on and deal with other things. So anyway, I think that's part of it, but yeah, that was certainly a good interview as well. And then Sunny was more challenging the Republicans. So she's definitely more of a political one and challenging the Republicans to refocus or to sort of expand their awareness or something. I don't know the way to explain it. But definitely not so much guns and 2A or anything. And then I'm trying to remember now, Eric's was... I'm trying to remember that one, if that one had anything with 2A in it. Of course, Suicide Prevention Saturday, that's all about the entire focus of that multi-year effort is the 2 out of 3 deaths that have to do with a firearm are suicides. And we've kind of chatted in this chat when I was doing this one on Friday that Pink has brought up that when you address the mental health side of suicide as opposed to the device used for some of the suicides because of a fear or a persecution of the property. But instead, if you look at the reasons for it, you not only prevent the suicides ideally, if you can help, you can offer aid and offer assistance and remove the barriers to help from people that might be having trouble dealing with stuff or whatever the situation is, grief or whatever, misunderstandings, right? Like having systems in place that are available will not only help the people that decide to pick up a firearm or a piece of property or whatever, but also mitigate the situations that fester into or grow into, or if you want to say that create the really bad situation. So by eliminating one thing, you eliminate at least the potential, or at least you're doing a lot more potential for eliminating the really bad stuff. And you're doing all this without laws. So I think that's, again, an effort that unfortunately gets almost no attention. And I chatted with Brooke a little bit in emails, and I suspect I do this chat way too late for the East Coast. Those people all go to bed, I guess. So this midnight plus over there. And but anyway, I think that that's something that, I'll spend as much time as possible to get people's woke to that fact that if we're having a debate in real life with somebody, it's got to be an effective tactic to challenge their reasoning, to take away an object from someone who's mentally stressed, who's got some kind of grief or anger, some kind of confusion or rage that makes them want to cause harm to another human. If their only solution is to take away one of many implements from that person and to ignore the cause or the symptom, not symptoms, but the cause or the barriers to that person getting some assistance, then they're unwilling to actually address the situation. And that's a big win for us, right? So anyway, I think that's something that we could chat about. Give you a chance to blab here. I'm sitting here ranting.
Yep. If we can take away the stigmatism that's there for, if you reach like law enforcement, there's people in law enforcement and stuff where if you're reaching out for counseling, that could affect your job, not and everything. And there's other where you get that, well, if I ask for help, this can affect everything, about me being able to own firearms. It can affect where I can never buy firearms. And so if we can take that away, then it would probably help bring more people to going, okay, well, I'm not going to lose all my, I'm not going to lose a bunch of my property. I'm not going to lose my rights and stuff like, and so they're maybe more apt to seek help instead of committing suicide or, suicide by cop or taking other people's lives along with their own, So there's multiple aspects of why being able to take certain, factors out of the way to be able to help people get counseling.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point. I always say mitigate. What is that? What do they say to reduce the barriers to what prevention or counseling or whatever the term is? So that's an actual specific, and I never even thought about it. But yeah, some of the other issues that seem to be on the main, list of topics is, the idea that any kind of authority in power having issues or whatever, and if any of those are mental issues that are causing those violations of the law and rights and stuff, then if you mitigate the causes of that, right, then hopefully you reduce the number of those infringements on rights and on whatever, all the stuff that people are griping about. I imagine it would make the job a better one too, right? Reducing,
Oh yeah,
I mean, people that are on the job don't have to worry about freaking out their weird and fellow employee. That's got to be a better job for everybody.
Yeah, and if you're a law enforcement officer, think about all the stuff that they see, on a day-to-day basis, and it's like if they don't have anyone that they can really talk to vent that stuff, it just builds up and festers inside.
Yeah, and well, I mean that's you're right. There's like that whole what do you call it, like a branch that you could go down there because imagine it's got to be similar for others, like emergency services, where you have to deal with grief and loss, or frustrations with that. I mean, I can't even imagine how much up and downs there are in a lot of the healthcare issues or whatever. And then you just get stressful other jobs. And there's tons of jobs where, you got to do stuff at a fast pace, or you got to do stuff perfectly every time. Or, there's always somebody trying. There's all kinds of stuff that can cause stress and stuff. So it's one of those things that we kind of address that too at some point in here, listening to some of the combat vets and their situations when they interview each other, talking about because they talk very frankly about their mental states and their brain, like awareness of their brain. I don't know what the words are, but like their brain
TBI,
all the things that can cause these issues, and they're aware of that stuff now. And like I say, since that's in the topics, then again you can start to see where that could be appropriate to obviously sports. They're always knocking their heads around, but think of all the jobs where people don't think about it, but you're getting concussive abuse to your brain or your system. Even music. People like DJ. He's out there right now hurting some poor kid's ears with his crazy loud music. So Smeggy's jumping in. I don't know if you've been listening or not. We're just kind of going through the weekly wrap up. Not the video so much as the topics of the videos that we've mentioned, to try to come up with some topics for tonight. So far we've had the poll that we have out there. Least important issue in 2A in 2021 specifically. The least important issue we've got this year. Is it repealing the NFA? Is it national reciprocity? Is it unity among the Second Amendment community? Or is it cultural education about guns in 2A? Anyway, so Smeggy's jumping in, and then the other topics have been, did I save this thing every time? Yeah. So why suicide prevention measures are in, let's say are in 2A, are good for 2A conversation. I don't know if Smeggy's muted or what, but.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was taking care of some stuff. But yeah, I heard it a little bit. Going to the least important thing, I voted for reciprocity, just because, I mean, not that it's not necessarily important. Like it'd kind of be cool if we had it. I'd much rather just have constitutional carry everywhere. But you'll never get me to vote for, not repealing the NFA. That's always going to be my number one go-to. And then I think unity is important, and then the educating is also important, because then that's how you get more activists, and even just like people in the middle or people that are ignorant of the topic, at least get them to be like, oh, okay, like we understand now. And then they're less likely to become antis, because at least they understand what's going on. Even if they don't become full bore like 2A people, they can at least not be anti, which is good enough.
Well, that's an interesting topic. Go ahead, teach me 3 going.
I don't know if I'd say unity would be a major, because we're never going to be 100% united. There's always going to be clashes. But if we can get common ground, I would say common ground would probably be better. So I would probably say the unity of the community is probably going to be your least, because as long as we can agree on, the NFA and national reciprocity, because we have to be able to have our carry permits be able to cross over. If our driver's license can cross over, then our licenses should be able to cross over. There should be 0 reasons why they can't.
Well, yeah, it has to do with federal control over the states. So I don't want the feds having the authority to tell the states that. So I want to have a system where the states all agree, but the feds don't have a lick to say about it.
Yeah, so like if I can play devil's advocate on the reciprocity thing, because I've gone back and forth on that as well, especially when it actually had a chance of passing and then they just sat on it for no reason and never went through, even though they had control of all the houses or whatever. But
Good point. We talked about this a lot back in the.
right, and you know, this is one of those. I'm open to change my mind. Maybe you can convince me, but as of right now, okay, playing devil's advocate from the people that would say, you know, let's say from California, New York, or whatever, they're going to say, well, we have very strict guidelines of who's allowed to get one and who's not. And, you know, for Texas, they just give them to anybody. So we don't want crazy people from Texas coming to our state. And so the counter to that would be, we're going to do national reciprocity, but every single state has to have 8 hours of in-class training, 2 hours at the range, sign off a certificate, get renewed every year, pay $200, blah, 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 blah. In which case that would then make the states that are respecting our freedoms and saying, oh, you want a permit? Yeah, give me $20, I guess, and you can have one. Like, no big deal. Which you shouldn't even need that. Like I said, constitutional carry is the ultimate goal, I think. But you would take those states are now going to become more restrictive, and then, you know, the states that are already anti-permit, you know, like the New Yorks and the Californias and Hawaii and whatnot, they're still not going to give their own residents permits. Like, they're still going to stay the same of having to go in front of a board or a judge or something and have to plead your case, and they'll just say no if they don't like you. You know, they'll still be which one? May issue. They'll still be may issue, not shall issue. So then you haven't really solved much. I understand your point, but that would be my counter as a devil's advocate, is that they would probably say, you know, your driver's license works in every state, because no matter what state you go to, you have to have some kind of training, you have some kind of learner's permit, you have to pass a test that's probably standard. I don't know. I've only ever gotten one driver's license, but I would assume you could go to any state and your driving test portion would be about the same. You got to go parallel park, you got to drive around with an instructor, make sure you don't hit nobody, and then you get your license.
So when I got my driver's license, 0 training. Like, I didn't take a driver's ed class or anything. I went when I was 16. I got my learner's permit, which was just taking the written test, and then practiced driving with people that had over 5 years driving, and then went and took my drive test when I was 18, which was pretty simple to pass, and I didn't have to do any parallel parking. I had to back out of an alley.
Well, I don't know how old you are, but I'm pretty sure, I thought it was 16 that you get your permit when you're 15 and you drive around when you're 16. Is it 18 now to drive? Or am I crazy?
So if you go through Ed, you can get a learner's permit depending on your state at like 15 and a half, and then you can get your driver's license when you're, and then like in Washington, if you don't take driver's ed, you can get your learner's permit when you're 16. You can renew it one time, and you can't get your driver's license till you're 18.
All right, well, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. We got too much good 2A stuff to talk about, but for somebody's chat, that would be interesting. I didn't realize that. I didn't really even pay attention to driver's licenses too much. But to Smeggy's thing, like, I don't even remember. I got a driver's license when I moved to Arizona in the 90s, the early 90s, and I haven't had a driver's license since. Like, they just give me one, and it lasts until I'm like 90. So I don't need driver's licenses in Arizona, at least. I don't know if other states are like that. I mean, you have one, but they give it to you once. You never have to go back for any kind of test or anything. I had already had a driver's license, so they just moved it over. But we can definitely go back to reciprocity or the issues of carrying in federal and states' rights, unless you guys have something you urgently want to kick. Otherwise, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try something. Right now, we're at 11 votes. We're at 11 votes on the poll, which is the least important issue into Second Amendment community right now into 2021, or has, I didn't say right now. So in 2021, right now the votes are 9% is tied between unity among the 2A community and repealing the NFA. Then second place is national reciprocity. So the least important for the group watching tonight is repealing the NFA and unity among our community. The next least important is national reciprocity. The least important is cultural communication about guns and 2A. So with that vote right now, I'm going to ask both of you about one at a time. G23, how do you interpret that? Is that, and I don't know, I'll leave it always open as that. How do you interpret that numbers tonight? There's no right one. I just want to throw an open question at you guys so that it's a little bit different than just the normal.
Yeah. So with the cultural being least important, I'm wondering if people maybe didn't completely understand the question, because you would think the education and bring in other bringing in other cultures, be it the Hispanic people who may be not very fond of firearms, Asians that are typically not very fond of firearms, being able to educate them and maybe at least get them to understand how they're beneficial. Even if they don't want to own one, that's their choice, but at least maybe getting them to not vote anti.
Okay, and that's a valid point. I should have probably like capitalized least or something, or put a parentheses around or something, so that, because already Andrew said he misunderstood. So that's a valid, what do you call it, answer. So Smeggy, how do you answer that one? How do you interpret the results tonight on that one?
Well, I just want to make sure then. So which one is the most least? Like which one is winning? Maybe I got confused when you read the results.
Yeah, so I kind of tried to do it so that, like, at least if people understood the question correctly, right? And we know at least one person didn't. But if everyone understood it correctly, what they think is the least important is cultural education, followed by reciprocity, and the most important, or the least important, would be repealing the NFA and unity among our community. Or if it's like, if it's backwards, then it's potentially backwards. But how do you interpret?
I mean, I'm going to assume most people are, read it correctly. So, okay, so culture is the least important, and then NFA and unity is the most important. So that's good. So when I heard you read the results, I thought you meant that like NFA got the most votes, and I would say that then I can't be friends with the viewers if they think that repealing the NFA is the least important. So I'm glad that they got that part right. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just don't care so much about, like expanding I guess the culture or whatever. I don't know. I'm having trouble putting it into words. I guess maybe it's just like people are at the point where, like, we have our team, they have their team, and let's just go ahead and duke it out now. Like, they don't care about spreading the good word and converting people or whatever. Maybe that's the thought, is like, well, people already feel the way that they feel, so no use spending time doing that anymore. Like, we got enough people on our side, so let's just go ahead and start fighting.
I hear you. And I was just throw it. I'm not even devil's advocate, but just like an ulterior way to say that, I think, because I don't think that you're wrong. I think that could definitely be the people's opinion, but not necessarily from only that angle. They could think that we have other things, the resources are better spent here. While that might be a worthy effort, it's not possible. Realistically, we can't do that. We've tried for years, but it hasn't worked. So I just don't want to make it look like we're demonizing the people or nothing. But I hear you. I totally agree that that's more than likely kind of the 7 is what I say.
To which I do want to debunk that and to say that I disagree with that style of thinking. So I was just trying to put myself into maybe like the viewer's mindset, but I personally fight against that all the time. Like just at work or whatever, having a random conversation about something, and then oh, that kind of segues into like Second Amendment or whatever. So I just kind of toss that in there, and even though I am behind enemy lines, I'm pleasantly surprised at how many people like kind of generally agree with me. And so I'm like, okay, if I'm meeting all these people and all these people think similar to me, like they think you should be allowed to carry, or you think like, getting all the different permits or like the pistol roster of safe handguns and like all that stupid, then why are they not voting for it? I don't know. So maybe that's step number 2, but at least the cultural part of it, like I try and win hearts and minds all the time on that stuff. And even just by showing like I'm a normal human, you like me, right? Yeah. I also happen to be into guns, so I'm not an evil person, right? Like, oh, I guess you're not. So sometimes you can change people's minds just by being a normal person and not, being in the closet kind of thing. And maybe that's behind enemy lines experience, is that I'm finding people that are in the closet, and once I open up, they open up as well, like, but just to me. Like, oh, I'm not going to talk about this in front of anybody. But since I know you're cool, like, yes, I do happen to own a couple of guns, and this is what I like.
That's interesting. I can kind of remember that back in the day when they just weren't a big thing anywhere, let alone in just a few states. All right, so then I'm going to put up one from sort of one of the points you made earlier. I'm going to put up a poll that says, is it, and then if anybody wants to, in the meantime, so that these polls don't just go back to back, if you're out there and you're a human and you're watching this, use your keyboard or squiggle your finger on your glass part of your phone to make words happen, and then the internet will put them on our screen over here, and we can interact with those words, and that makes you, who are here watching this live, part of the conversation. So feel free to do that. You're encouraged, in fact. So then the question that's going to go up as a poll is going to say, is it better to, first option, win anti-folks over to pro-2A, or second option, get anti-folks to, guns are okay? Now, here's the question. I don't want to mess up as in, it's late at night, so if I'm messing this up and it's not clear, am I wording this poorly? And then secondly, is there another option I should add? You guys?
I think that's worded okay. And I don't know. I think those are just the two would be just fine. I don't know if we need to put a third or fourth in there.
I say that the only one I was thinking of, because maybe people will look at it just from like a use of effort kind of thing, is something like the people that are already like in the middle, like the people that are already guns are okay. Is it worth it to convert them into pro 2A? Just so it's like, do you really just fight the antis and convert them all the way, fight the antis and convert them into whatever, or fight the whatevers into, we're pro 2A?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So add a third category, but then kind of segment it. So get the anti-folks to, or no, let's say get the anti-folks to listen, maybe. And then get the antis who listen. I don't think all that'll fit. No, get listeners to guns are okay, or get when the guns are okay, folks over to pro 2A. So get the anti-folks to listen to us, and then get the people that'll listen to us to believe that guns are okay, and then get the people that think guns are okay to be pro-Second Amendment. Like you're saying, we'd ask them which of these efforts is better, because that is a better slice. That's a more even slice, perhaps, right? Than, you know, the people that'll, the anti-gunners that'll listen, or I guess that'll get over a fence, versus the anti-gunners that'll get pro 2A. That's a big chunk that'll even listen. So is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Just because, quite frankly, getting antis to pro 2A, personally, I think is a lot to ask. It could be possible. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I think that's a little more realistic, is at least get them to open their mind a little bit. Maybe it's like a 3-step process, and you can take a hardcore anti and turn them into pro 2A, but they're going to go one step at a time.
You're muted. So I put these kind of show notes, kind of liner notes, I don't know what to call it, into the description of the video for anybody that's watching this after the fact. So hopefully those will help catch people that are searching for some of these topics or whatever. Okay, so while we're listening to that or watching that poll cook over there, off to the main lead at this point with just a few votes is getting listeners to the point where guns are okay, right? So let me ask it this way then. Before we even know, because we don't know how many people are going to show up and vote in this poll, before we even know, Smeggy, what are you thinking is it, which is your vote and why?
I think my vote would be for guns are okay into pro 2A. Hey, that's a bumper sticker. Guns are okay into pro 2A. Nice. But yeah, I think that just because you're going to probably have an okay success rate in doing that, because you're already starting on, you know, neutral territory and just kind of convincing them to go one little step further. And then also I'd like to see the ranks of the pro 2A, you know, grow. And there are a lot of people that, you know, maybe they have a shotgun or whatever, and yeah, guns are okay, I guess, but they don't care at all about any of the laws. They just follow along with whatever they're supposed to do. And it'd be nice to have them fighting as well, because I think that's a really big group. And then we would outnumber the antis, you know, whatever, I don't know, 3-1, 4-1. Like, there's a lot of people, I think, that fall into that category. But as of right now, they're just not fighting for whatever reason.
Okay, so 23, same question. Which one of these is your answer and why?
I'm gonna go with convincing antis to go. It's probably the easier way.
No, hold on. We divided that. So you got to have antis that'll listen to us, or listen to us that'll go to guns are okay. So you're saying the last one, get the antis to just listen to us at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
okay, then.
If they'll just listen, we can come to a common ground, I believe. Now, we start working too hard on the guys and gals that are already just like, you know, who cares? We could turn them into antis and end up harming ourselves.
Well, no, that's
So
not that's not the people that are saying who cares. This is people that are listening to us this isn't people that are like guns, who cares, to pro 2A. This is people that are like guns are cool, and then getting them into pro 2A. And this is just people that are willing to listen to us and getting them to say guns are okay. So we don't have an option here where people are like, I hate guns, unless you're talking about the anti-stuff.
Yeah. You could easily irritate somebody who's one of those people and have them go the other way and be like, you know what? Those pro gunners are what everybody is already saying in the media, you know? So
Well, you're saying like an extremist or whatever, like, oh, they're too crazy. I don't like how their laws, they
yeah,
want crazy ideas about the laws. I'm going to go back to being like only some people should have them.
yep.
Okay, no, that's valid. All right, so then my next question is, I've made an illustration here, and the red circle is the people that hate guns and personal property and what you do with your life and freedom, right? Those people live in this red circle. This red sucks in the shitty color. Then you got people that are in the middle and they don't care, right? They're the people that I guess will listen to us but don't care one way or the other. They ain't voting with us necessarily, but they ain't voting against us for sure, right? They're not friends, they're not foes. And then this green circle, which is a decent color, is the gun owners, people that are good to go. So I should probably make a different thing, right? I should probably do something like this and then offer a blue circle, which is the best color, for Pro 2A. Does that make sense? So now we have people that hate everything, including our properties and our rights and good, pleasant society. Then there's people that could care less one way or the other. There's people that are pro-gun, and then there's Pro 2A, the best people of all people. So if that's the case and you're with me and you agree that this, we can now group everybody in the whole country and world into this 4 groups, these sets, I'm asking which of these is the biggest. So what I can do using the magic power of Microsoft, look, I can make that one smaller or bigger. So G23, which do you think is, what do you think? Like, how would you say which one of these is, how do you add up to 100% with these? Where do you, because this is all, I think, perception, right? Like, where do you think we're at? How big are these groups?
So honestly, the red is probably going to be around 20%, and your blue is going to be probably around 20%. And then your orange and your green are going to be right at like 40%.
You serious? You see it? You really think that there's as many people that are like, whatever, and gun owners? I mean, I get it that there's only so many of us that are pro 2A, and then, you know, that there's only so many that are rabid anti-gun. But do you really think these two are the same size?
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
there's no way to know, so it's all about whatever. So that's cool. Then Smeggy, where do you think we're at? Oh, go ahead.
It definitely falls on perception. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that are, you know, middle of the fielders that are just going to be like, I really don't care one way or another, you know, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go either way. I'm not going to go, I hate them, and I'm not going to say, oh, I love them. And they're just going to be like, if they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. And then you got your like pro gun people, you know, they're going to be like, yeah, I like the shotguns, or yeah, I like, you know, rifles for going hunting, but I don't care about pistols, or I don't care about whatever. And I'm definitely not going to put effort into going and fighting for stuff. I'm not going to go rallying, you know. So yeah, I think that the two are in the middle are probably going to be right around the same number.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks. And then, because I appreciate that, I get you now. So, and I was thinking as you were saying that too, that if you think of it this way, just because they're pro-gun doesn't mean they're a gun owner. They can be like, I don't want a gun, but I like your right to own a gun. And that would make this bigger than all gun owners. So I guess my first reaction was like, oh, there's not that many gun owners. But yeah, I agree with you. And that. So, Swiggy, where are you at? Where do you think the sizes fit, or do you think exactly the same?
Yeah, so I think that the antis, like, I kind of agree with the form, right? The antis and the Second Amendment people are going to be smaller than the two groups in the middle. But I think the antis are even smaller than the pro 2A. I don't know percent wise or whatever, but they're going to be a little bit smaller. And I think that the green is a little bit bigger than the people that don't care at all.
Oh, sorry, I was harassing the people who are not participating. Sorry, what was the scale again? Where we're at?
Okay, anti is the smallest, and then pro 2A is like small, but not as small as the anti. And then I think the green is just slightly bigger than the orange.
Oh, shit. So how do you justify that crazy ass? I thought he was crazy, and now you're freaking off the wall crazy. Yeah.
I guess because I'm very optimistic, and more than half the people I talk to are like, yeah, guns are cool. And this is like, even behind enemy lines, like random people I work with or whatever. So I figure they're at least in the green. They're not like me, they're not in the blue, but you would think if you'd have equal, talking to whatever, 10 people, 5 of them would be like, yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. And 5 of them would be like, yeah, guns are okay, I guess. But I get a different sense. Out of 10 people, I might talk to 8 of them that think guns are cool. And then 2 of them that are like, yeah, I don't really know what you're talking about, dude. You're weird.
Okay, well, no, that's cool. So then is this approximate, or am I, like you said, a little bit bigger? Did I get that right, scale-wise?
Yeah.
All right, and then I think if I still got it in here, I can paste one more time. Yeah. So then I agree with you guys that I think, and there's no humans out there, so we're just talking to ourselves, I guess. I think that the antis are bigger than the pros.
Really?
Because there's just not that much of us. So if what I call Pro 2A, I might have a highly, different opinion of what Pro 2A is. But yeah, I think that our Pro 2A is smaller than the antis, the rabid antis. Because they've got a lot of people who just hate Trump, or they just hate us, or they just hate, and they just want, they want approval to hate. And they're not going to join the military or police, so this is their approval to hate. So I think they've got people that hate more than we've got people that work. Because this is people that like guns and see they can make a difference, believe they can make a difference, and are able to do stuff, and haven't lost their motivation, right? And haven't died, because most of them are old as shit. So I think that this is small. Now, I think this number, and I see what you're saying, G23, like if this includes non-gun owners or whatever that are pro-gun, I'm trying to put it in relation to this more than anything. I'm trying to think of like how many pro-gun people there are versus the super anti-adamantly against us. And I think it's something like this maybe, right? I know I'm kind of squiggling around. And now this number of people that ain't us, they don't hate us, but they ain't us. Is that a thing? Did I just make up a thing? This is like the giant thing. So I think this is the huge one. And I think that makes some interest. That's interesting. So I don't think I ever said what my answer is to that, because I don't know if I had a chance to think about it yet. But I think this is the way I would portray it. I think that there's the most of the people who don't give a shit one way or the other. They're like guns are okay, but I don't care. Like if you give me a good reason, I'll get rid of guns. But at the same time, I don't hate them either. I'm not afraid of them. These are the people that hate them, afraid of them, hate us, hate Trump, whatever they hate, right? And then the gun owners. And like you say, there's a lot of gun owners who are like, I got a shotgun, but I can jump over into this pile, because I think people that own a shotgun and don't want you to own a pistol are maybe in this pile, right? The oranges. So I don't know if we agree on all that. And then, like I just said, I don't think very many people at all. In fact, even now, I'm going to do this. Like I'm doing that, I'm making that even smaller. All right, so that's mine. So then, now if I can remember, did Smeggy, you say it was listeners to, which one did you say? The number 1, 2, or 3 was your answer?
Oh, mine was the guns are okay to Pro 2A.
Okay, so that would mean on yours, you think that this is the most important effort, right? And then J23, you said this is the big one? Or did you say this was the big one? Or the most important?
I think going from anti to the is probably going to be your biggest.
Okay. So now that I put it in this perspective, does this change either one of your minds at all? Because I could see, I mean, it's not just numbers, right? Like I could see bringing people out of this pile being strategically, not necessary, but worthwhile, right? Like, because those are people that have a lot of resource and it's taken away from their pile. This, man, I don't know. I could definitely see your strategy there, but then see how I perceive it. I was going to say, I think I could be talked into this just because of numbers. But I don't think that it's all a numbers game either. So I don't know. I'm not voting yet. But you know what I'm saying? Like you see how I could vote like that if I was going to vote like that, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, it is interesting how like the different perspective of like what we think the country's made up of then influences where we think the most effort is. And like I said when I explained myself before even the circles were drawn, I think you'd have like the biggest well to pull from and the easiest time of getting guns are okay to Pro 2A. And you can see that from my circles because I think that's the biggest group, so it's the most number of people that we could convert onto our side. What would be interesting, and maybe
from like our soldiers to our special operations, as opposed to population to new recruits, or as opposed to enemy into not our enemy.
Right, and it would be interesting if we could get like an accurate representation of those circles. So I'm going to give some homework to our real life human listeners because I can't really look stuff up while I'm in here on my phone.
Wrong.
But
that's the kind of homework you give to the robots. Come on, man.
Okay, so if we have some robots, can you crunch us some numbers? And I guess what I would look at is how many members does, moms demand attention from illegal mayors or whatever? Like, how many people are that'd be your red circle. And then how many people are in, GOA, FPC, Second Amendment Foundation, NRA. I would put all those in the blue. And then, I don't know, try and find some data on how many gun owners. Those would be all the green. And then everyone else would be the orange. Like, so there is a way to divide this country, like to subtract all those numbers and get a rough estimate. And I'd be curious what those numbers look like.
I kind of would think it'd be interesting to give that assignment to multiple efforts, to multiple national level organizations, multiple groups that have resources to be able to dig into it and then compare their results, right? And then use the mean of those results and we know exactly what it is. Or is that not science?
Well, I mean, that's somewhat science, but
it's kind of science. It's science enough for what we're doing here. All right, so
you had a few different people say about the same thing, you would know you're on the right track. And then if someone came in and said, oh, there's 300 million anti-gun people, you'd know, well, that's wrong. So, okay, we can throw you out because you're crazy. But
or at least listen to maybe they got something to make everybody else's a lot more accurate or something. But yeah.
And just so the humans and robots that are listening tonight think that, I'm just being lazy or whatever, I gave myself the same homework assignment. Maybe we can discuss our findings on a later show. And then that would certainly influence or at least bring some data into the discussion of where is the effort most worthwhile. Because it's possible, maybe that orange circle is 99% of the country. Well, then that's where we need to focus because it's obviously super crazy out of balance. But if it's like what I think it is, then I'm going to keep my same answer. And if it's different, I might change my answer.
So now we've got input from Lady Lux. I don't know that counts, so thanks for joining us. Human here, order from smallest to biggest, in their opinion, is red. So I'm guessing smallest. And then blue. And I think, like me, they had... oh, wait, was I the only one? No, I said mine. I thought mine was smaller. So it looks like Smeggy also thought that blue would be a little bit bigger than red. And then green, interesting. And, well, kind of like what I did, I guess. Green, and then they said yellow, but orange being the... I just didn't use yellow because you can't see it on here. But being the biggest. So the big question is, if you want to follow up, how much bigger? Because like I say bigger, quite a bit bigger than I did, because otherwise we're drawing about the same circle, except that you think that there's fewer rabbit antis, and I think there's fewer pro 2A.
So half my answer, half your answer, basically.
Yeah, and that's fine. You know, that's another thing. So I guess my question is, if you want to clarify, like, how much bigger should I make this orange? Like, does it dwarf the green, or is it just a little bit bigger? Because what we're doing here isn't obviously adding up to 100 or nothing. It's just giving us some proportions or perspectives. Then next question was, I'd say FUDs are in yellow, so or in the yellow. So what I'm going to do is make FUDs. Let's make FUDs stupid. No, let's make FUDs purple, and let me ask for. Well, first let me put a thing around this. I'm going to ask you guys where you would put your FUDs and how big of a FUD circle, because we're going to call FUDs a subset. Here's what I'm going to suggest. They can be, I'll make them a circle. They can either be their own circle, or they can be a circle inside of something, or they can be some kind of weird thing like this. So does anybody want to go first, or?
I'll jump in. So I think FUDs would almost by definition at least be in the green. I think they're a subsection of the green, and maybe about half of it, because there's like a lot of, just hunters or my dad's old rifle, blah blah blah, whatever. I think those people kind of fall into FUDs. And I will say I am excluding our friend Clover, because even though he's a FUD, he's definitely in the green. He's definitely in the blue. But other than that, the traditional definition of FUD is just, the Elmer Fudd hunter dude. He thinks guns are okay, but he's not necessarily pro 2A.
All right, well, you've given me a dilemma. First, I need to kind of go in here and erase a portion of your arrow then. Oh, come on. I just hit erase. I need to erase a portion of your arrow. But first, I'm going to ask G23 then. What's your answer for FUD and where?
I think the FUD is going to be more of a gap, like a bridge between the and the gun owner.
Okay, and then how big of like a section of it all?
I'd be like kind of skirting the line on both of them.
Yeah, but I mean, how big of a subset? How big compared to them?
Like that, maybe.
Okay.
They're barely touching either side. They're kind of a subsection of their own, but they're in between both.
All right, so here's the thing. Can a FUD be just, well, I guess because we're doing this in a visual way, I think that this is going to imply some stuff. So should I have put the orange and green like right next to each other? Like you're basically one day and then, oh snap, now I'm the other one and you're never going back, which is, if you put these next to each other. So like FUDs have to be one or the other, or is FUD this like transition zone in between where like one day you grow up and you're like, I hate pistols, damn pistols. And then you're like, well, and then one day you grow up and you're like, okay, I can handle pistols and rifles, and I'm okay if my neighbor has guns or whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Or am I thinking too much into this at this point?
No, I kind of think that's right where a lot of the FUDs are is, that they're probably, guns are okay, whatever. And then maybe they get dad's old shotgun or dad's old hunting rifle or grandpa's, and then they start going, okay, well, you know what? Rifles and shotguns are okay, but those scary, black guns, just no one should have those, and no one should have pistols. And then maybe they start actually going to the range with dad's old gun and find out that that scary pistol isn't so scary. And then oh, well, maybe that scary black rifle isn't so scary anymore.
Right on. So then you are taking people in your original thing that started this whole thing. You're saying the best strategy for us is it. So that means it's like it better for the 2A community. For us to try to work on these people to get them to orange, that's separate than getting them to FUD, I'm assuming. So Smeggy, when you put your FUDs in the green, is there any relationship to your FUD subset and the amount of people that or the effort that you'd like to bring over? Is it like coming direct? Is it coming from both the FUDs and outside? Is it coming from the, like, first they come from here to here, and then once they're a FUD, then they can go to blue? Or is it, is there some, what's the deal there?
I think it can come from either. And I don't think you necessarily have to go from one to the other to get to the 2A. Like, I guess I'm picturing the green as like the hunters, but they don't like fight back against pistol registries or whatever. And then I'm picturing like the people that maybe have a handgun for self-defense. Maybe they live in the inner city or something, a bad neighborhood, but they don't even though they like self-defense, they also don't care about the legislation. Like, they just, I guess I need permits. I guess I need to register. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I'll do it. Instead of them, the 2A people that would be like, we agree with both of you guys. It's just, we want to fight against the bad stuff. So I think you can come from either one of those groups. You don't have to turn from one to the other. And there may be different strategies to get one group or the other into 2A. One thing I'm just brainstorming, at least with like the hunter type people, is they don't seem to care because no one's coming after their fun stuff. But as soon as you start getting laws against, hunting regulations, or, when they come out with this term, which I know is coming eventually, is like they're going to start calling bolt action rifles with scope sniper rifles. And why would you need such a thing? Then the FUDs are going to wake up and be like, well, wait a minute. I just want to shoot sheep in Colorado. What are you doing to me? And then maybe we can say, see, you want to wake up and help us fight now?
Remember that narrative, but as you were saying that, I can't help but think like I kept saying if they're still alive, because that's the people you're talking about tend to be really old, and if they're still, they're barely kicking anymore. They're certainly not fighting, and you know what I mean. Like by the time they come after that, like you're saying, there's gonna be very, very, very few people in that realm. I suspect, if it's going the way we got now, hopefully it'll be different.
I was gonna say I disagree. Just from, actually, I have family members that squarely fall in that purple, and it's because they're in rural, like northern Michigan, living on a farm. They hunt to make food, and that's it. Like, that's all they care about. And they're all sorts of ages, but they're that same way. If I start talking about my AR, they think I'm some crazy dude. I'm some militia guy or whatever. Why would you need that? I can put food on my table with this trusty 30-06. It's like, okay, whatever, dude.
Okay, no, I'm down with that. I don't listen to everybody. I've listened to people like Sandhills who are the opposite, so I just assume everybody in Nebraska's woke and pro 2A. So, and that's a big state full of people like you're talking about. I assume flyovers. We call them the flyovers. So a couple of things. Well, okay, am I cutting anybody off? Does anybody have anything? I'm going to keep going. So I invite like 30-something people to this show. And the goal is to have an opportunity to have a conversation that evolves the topics, evolves the discussion, so that we don't have to introduce ourselves every time we meet, so that we don't have to be confined to a tetherball game about the news of the day or the topics that the antis have brought to the table. I consider those ambushes, and we haven't learned as a community how to get past those. so I refuse to even acknowledge them, at least for an hour or two on Saturday afternoons, evenings, I guess, midnight. I guess it's not any of those. It's in the middle of the night. A couple of reasons. One, hopefully people are awake that are legit. Like, we're not just I'm not making a show for people that are looking for something to watch because they're bored and they're eating dinner, but instead for people that are willing to put in a lot extra effort to just talk 2A. And then because in the evenings at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, there's some amazing conversations that take place. And that's, trying to recreate that opportunity each week. So I invite a bunch of the people I know are doing good stuff and, have a quarter of the screen here, or third of the screen devoted to the people that are out there being part of the show through the comments. So thanks for that. And of course, if you're listening to this on guntube.org or on gunstreamer.com or on YouTube, I guess, after the fact, you feel free to comment in the comments on the video as well.
And don't forget the homework. We need to know how big these circles actually are. So leave a comment to how big the circles are.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, we can do it just that way. I don't know if I'm sorry if that's what you had said before and I just missed it, but yeah, we could literally just ask everybody their impression after watching this. What percentages would you give that? I mean, you're welcome to do it if you're watching this now, but just in general, you don't have to do no math or anything or like do any kind of research. Just give us some impression and we can get an idea from just the consensus of what people think at least. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to disregard if somebody is willing to put in some effort and figure it out. It would be awesome. It'd be a really cool thing to be able to have, because then all you have to do is tune it in every couple of years or every so often to see where it's changed or, kind of trends there are.
Oh, what I'm going to be working on my Excel spreadsheet.
Right on. Dude, did you see how good I am at graphs now, pulling them out of my fake Excel?
No, I haven't seen any. Well, I guess, yeah, I saw your poll result graph.
Yeah, that's literally just going to my fake Excel and then pulling out this graph. It's like, you push a button and it makes the graph and then you go in there and turn it blue and make it 3D or whatever. But yeah, that's just out of free version of Excel spreadsheet. And I just took all the numbers from all these suckers that fill out my poll all the time. And then I took those numbers for free and put them into my free Excel sheet. And I got this free data for nothing, suckers. So yeah, I'm an expert at making data charts out of numbers and basically this kind of stuff robot realm. Or that used to only.
This particular exercise would be great for a pie chart if we can get some, numbers, even if it's just people's perception. Like at least say, 10%, 40%, 30%, whatever you think it is, and we could even add all those up and get an average. And I'll do that homework as long as the people participate and leave the comments. I'll come back to this video later and add it with my findings.
So earlier, Lady Lux added more input to it. So it said orange about as big as the previous one, the green a bit smaller. So basically their difference from my set then was that they believe the Second Amendment folks are a little bit more than the rabid antis, and that the gun owners or the people that are guns are okay, I guess on our chart, those would be a little bit smaller than in my picture. So feel free if you want to say where you think the FUDs are, Lady Lux, where you want your FUD circle or whatever to be, then let me know. Justin is saying the FUDs are between the orange and green, so like not touching is like a separate entity over here. Oops, now I gotta figure out how to go back to that. Like a separate entity over here. I was thinking if I was going to draw it, this one's mine, right? If I was going to put it on mine, I was going to do this. This might be controversial, so let me first preface this with, if you're a FUD or a pregnant lady, please sit down. Everybody else doesn't have to sit down, but I don't want anybody thinking they're having a fit. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it like this, and it's touching the blue because of clover, right? I mean, it's in the blue a little bit because of clover, and folks like clover. But I don't know how big this would be, right? Because that would be a question for anybody who wants to try to address it. But in my interpretation of a FUD, I think they envelop everything except the antis. However, they go right up. If you'll notice, I'm going right up and sucking the butt of the antis with this. Like, they're not anti, but they may as well, they could easily be married to an anti, having kids with an anti, like some weird twins where one of them is anti and one of them is pro. Like, that's the kind of weird stuff that's happening right here. But they also span this gambit in between where they're not one or the other, but they're also, you know what I mean, they're not anywhere near over here. And then they can come waver out here by almost being pro 2A sometimes, and these are the most frustrating of the FUDs. And often they'll just rest back into being pro gun. But you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they're just like, I don't like what I heard, and then zzz, way the hell back over here. And we're lucky if we don't lose them. And I just don't know of any antis that are like, I used to be pro gun and then I started hating freedom. You know what I mean? Like, all there are, the only antis are those that are exploiting tragedy or, being an opportunity for people to hate or not like other people's property. So that's, I guess Smeggy had a book. So that's where I'm thinking my diagram is. And like I say, I'm not sure how many FUDs there are and how, this might be I should have done it differently because I can't move it once it's open. But if it's like this, where it's just a little bit touching the blue and it's just barely touching the red, I don't know how big it would be, because how big it would be like determine how many of them are over here and how many of them are over here. But I kind of see FUDs being their own thing, but also in the mix of all this. Because these people that are like, I'll listen to gun owners. Like, I got a shotgun that grandpa died and I got it in the closet. Like, I'm technically a gun owner, but, or like, I know a guy that's got a gun and I don't hate him. So I'll listen, but, so I think FUDs would be more of that. And maybe it's some kind of weird orbiting thing where they hover around both of these things, but they never actually touch it. So Justin is saying, I thought, yes, a completely separate thing. So what do you think of both of those two concepts? And I don't know if you had a chance to comment on Smeggy's. Now you can talk shit about Smeggy's drawing because he's left.
I mean, I see where Speggy's going with his. I may not 100% agree with it. I definitely think the FUDs are more like the way I have mine. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I where everyone's kind of train of thoughts are. But I kind of think Smeggy's kind of giving some people a little too much credit.
Because all the FUDs are pro-gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And they don't have to necessarily be anti-gun. I can see where people are like, they're separate or whatever, right? Like, they don't have to be one or the other. But now he's out there getting all upset because we're talking shit about Snowman who can't even handle life in the heat. Now, not just because of Smeggy, but we're ending it, right? Because of Smeggy left. But no, it's been about an hour, and me and G23, for like us, it's like 10 o'clock in the evening. So it's nothing for us to go all night. But I don't want this Second Amendment topics, or what am I calling this? Advanced topics in 2A or whatever. I'd rather have this consumable by folks so that they don't get us scared that it's too long of a show or whatever. And we've kind of dug into some interesting stuff. So I'm going to try to leave it without getting it too bogged down with being a giant show where we just go off topics and stuff. But I'll address whatever we got coming in. Again, we devote at least a chunk of the screen here to the folks that join us live. So we got that poll out there, and it was, is it better to win? So basically using this chat, is it better, or this chart or whatever, let's use, it's a good color, shit, I'll use pink. So is it better to win guns are okay to pro 2A, which I guess is what Smeggy was saying? Or is it better to get listeners to Guns Are Good. So that jump, which is I think what I was going to suggest, unless I was convinced otherwise, just because of numbers though. So I wasn't like super, dedicated to this position. I was just doing it because of what I perceive as the biggest bang for the buck potentially, because with that many people, you'd have options and, anything's a win or whatever. And then the other one would be to get antis to just quit being assholes, which is basically your position, to get them from being an enemy to not being an enemy. And like I said, I can definitely see that. Not only is it a great advantage to not have an enemy, but you're dwindling their support and their morale is going to go down. And, every time you are able to bring somebody over, you've learned how to bring another person over. And I think some of this, now that I'm saying that, is, it's not like guns are bad and we're having to hide the fact that they're bad. And it's not like guns are going around killing people and we have to somehow dance around that. Guns are minding their business. Guns are creating safety. Guns are giving people empowerment and, education and jobs and all the other fun, positive things that guns do. And the antis just are having a fit about it. And they're trying every fit they can have, and they're having every issue they can come up with, and they're attempting things as often as they can get away with it to marginalize and push gun owners into some, perceive, or in the general public, they're trying to do some strategies. That might be an interesting conversation. But anyway, their efforts are, not genuine. We know that based on some of the stuff we talked about earlier. If they were generally interested in preventing deaths, then they would join with gun owners and prevent suicides without attacking gun laws. But they're generally only interested in the gun laws portion of it and don't even give mouth service to the actual efforts that could be done. So I guess as I was saying that, I sidetracked myself because I was thinking, how interesting would it be to try to figure out what the antis tactics are? Problem is, I don't know shit about the antis tactics. It's like we are the punching bag, and every once in a while somebody comes over and beats the shit out of us, and we don't know what their reasoning is. We just know that we got the shit beat out of us, and we run around going, oh, what can we do to not get the shit beat out of us? Or how do we deal with the beatings? We run around like victims, and nobody's ever asked, I guess we never even contemplated how we could have it stop or something. I'm rambling at this point. Let's see. Guns are like bricks. They're amoral. No, amoral. I gotcha. They don't have an opinion one way or the other. All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. I don't think I missed. Oh, wait. Sadly, I think. Wait, did I miss this one? Yeah. Justin had said the FUDs are orange, between orange and green, personally. And then he said, yeah, a completely separate thing. Okay. So then he also had said, I thought that the anti-folks had already tried the whole sniper rifle word game. Yes, they have, but that doesn't exclude them from attempting it again. They usually just wait until people forget so that they can do it again. Or unless it's working, then they just keep, pushing at it. So he said, was that Sudak said, sadly, I think the FUDs go in the green circle. So let's go back to the purple. And I'll use this bottom one. Then, sadly, the FUDs go in the green circle, and they are majority of gun owners. So, like Smeggy, except Smeggy said it was like half. You're saying the majority of gun owners might send a few bucks to the NRA and think that everything is handled. So what do you think of that new element before we head out?
I can see where a lot of people would go with that thought. I mean, I don't know. I still think FUDs kind of straddle both, where they some of them don't give a crap, and other ones are like, yeah.
So now Smeggy's saying green plus blue is 40%. So he thinks that the red and orange together make up 60% of the total, and that the gun owners and Second Amendment advocates make up 40% of the total. That's a bold statement to make after you jump out. But I am going to end it. This is kind of like being a 90-minute chat, so I think that's sort of consumable. I want to thank G23 for jumping in after you already did a live chat earlier today. Thanks for jumping in and bringing a bunch of shit to the table with us. I feel like we've solved something because we had another successful chat, even though a bunch of people were scared to jump in or too tired or whatever. And, we moved the ball a little bit instead of having the same old fear festival about whatever the news of the day is suggesting is the eventual or inevitable, cause of or result of or whatever. We were able to think outside the box and challenge people from to come up with some interesting ways to think about ways to put our effort. Anyway, I don't know if you want to wrap anything up or throw. Oh, now Smeggy's just talking crazy. But anyway, if you want to throw anything in there before we head out.
Thanks again for the invite, and it's been a great another chat that we've done.
Just save these so that if anybody wants to see the instructions on how to save 2A, we've got them for them, so you're welcome. Let's see, so Maggie's saying, I found 40% are gun owners and every town only has 6 million members, so I rounded up to 5%. Well, but if we could, see, he's bringing up stuff that's trying to trigger us into a whole nother conversation. So we have stuff to talk about next week, potentially Smeggy's comment there as we head out. Maybe that's something that we can do. If you'd like to recommend topics for this advanced topics in 2A conversation that happens every Saturday, let us know in the comments of this video or one of the others. What happens is when you leave comments on a video, the YouTube system tells us. We have a little thingy over here and it tells us when somebody leaves a comment. So let's see, let's end the poll. We had 13 votes and we have a tie for is it better to get folks to anti-gun folks to listen or get listeners to get to guns are okay. That came in first, and then third came in or second, I guess, came in winning over the pro-gun people over to 2A, or gun people over to pro 2A. Yeah, definitely interested if people have comments on this one because I don't think there are right answers. We'll be back next week to do some stuff in the morning. Gizzard is on normally. Most weeks, Foss would be doing a show in a couple of hours. However, this is the every other week that he doesn't do the show. And then earlier or later on this morning or earlier tomorrow, however you want to look at it, Gizzard will be doing his chat, which is a live format conversation, very much in the style of G23's chat, where they focus on guns and Second Amendment topics over on the Gizzard Gary channel. In the afternoon, there should be some live premieres of interviews that the Locked and Loaded Latinos did at the Solutionary Summit. One of them is going to be KD, and they said that one's going to be pretty interesting. And I don't remember what they said the other one was, but it was somebody else. Oh, the foam guy from Carolina Custom Foams or something who helps a lot of people out. So that should be interesting. And then we're going to be doing a chat on 3D printing over on the other channel if anybody's interested in that. I'm probably missing some other chats because there's quite a few chats that happen on Sundays. And then all kinds of stuff happens throughout the week. I guess I can mention that over at gunchannels.com, we've added a list of the live chats that happen each week, or I guess periodically, depending on the schedule. And some of them are weekly, some of them are monthly. So you can check out the daily stuff that's happening with a focus on 2A, the Monday shows, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then, of course, the shows that are weekly. Some of them are monthly, and then others are kind of like occasionally. And if you know anything that's worth listening to that's focused on 2A that's not on our list over there, you can let us know in any place, the comments here or someplace, and we will consider adding them. All right, that's enough talking for tonight. You can all go ahead and sit down. It's been a great show. Enjoy a nice salad if you're in New York. The rest of you people can be judged by this lady. We'll get rid of Smeggy's comment over here because it's getting in the way of everything. And And then since that dude was in here, why don't we use his ending thing? Oh, let's put this up real quick. You gonna hork me a copy of the one you got from what's his face, or did he make one that's specifically a commercial?
He just did the intro. I can probably send it over to you.
Well, I'm wondering if you ask him, maybe you got some dirt on him or some photographs that he doesn't want made public, and let him know that if you were to get a version of that wasn't necessarily an introduction, but more of a commercial, like all you would have to do is barely edit that thing. And then that's what you'd have. And then let's say those pictures wouldn't go public. And then that way you could hork me over that version and I could use it instead of this little shitty version. That was like the 9mm version. He made like a 45. Well, I'm not gonna say it ends any world wars. He made like a 38 plus P version of my wimpy 9mm version of one. All right, well, thanks for showing up. We'll be back to pick you up later. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com. Do 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 do.